I remember that morning like it was yesterday. The air smelled of summer, of freedom, of water and sunlight blending into one endless horizon, and yet beneath that calm surface, I was carrying pain that no one could see, a fractured leg and a restless mind. Everyone told me not to do it, not to go near the water, not to test my limits. But something inside me refused to listen, because sometimes life doesn't ask for comfort, it demands courage, and that day, as I stood at the edge of the lake with crutches pressed against the sand, I realized I wasn't there to prove anything to the world, I was there to prove something to myself. The water was still, the kind of stillness that tempts you to break it. And as I tightened the straps around my leg, the pain throbbed like a heartbeat, reminding me I was still human. A few friends shouted, "Bill, don't be crazy. You can't ski with a broken leg," but I smiled, because sometimes being called crazy is the only compliment worth earning. The boat engine roared to life, spraying white foam into the air. And for a second, the sound drowned every voice of doubt inside me. All I could hear was the hum of determination, the whisper of risk, and the echo of that inner voice saying, "You've fallen before, but today you rise differently." I grabbed the tow rope, my fingers trembling, not from fear but from the thrill of what was about to come. I wasn't chasing adrenaline. I was chasing clarity, the kind that only pain and persistence can give you. As the boat began to move, the rope pulled, my arms stiffened, and for a moment, I thought the weight of the world was dragging me down, but then the skis found balance, cutting through the surface like blades of purpose. The water splashed against my face, cold but alive. And I laughed, a deep, honest laugh that comes only when you realize you've stepped beyond the borders of what's supposed to be possible. The wind tore through my hair, the sky stretched wide above me, and every second I stayed upright felt like a defiance against the voice that said, "You can't." My leg screamed with pain, it burned, pulsed, begged me to stop. But the heart has a strange way of silencing pain when the soul is louder. I wasn't thinking about success, money, or achievements. I was thinking about that one lesson life keeps repeating, that you only truly live when you dare to hurt for something meaningful. Every wave hit me like a reminder that control is an illusion. It's not about mastering the water, it's about trusting yourself enough to ride its chaos. The lake seemed endless, the world small, and me, just a man chasing a feeling, not a record. Somewhere between the pull of the rope and the rhythm of the waves, I realized how fragile yet powerful the human spirit is. The body breaks, but will bends, never shatters. As I sped faster, my vision blurred, and I could taste salt, maybe from the water, maybe from sweat, or maybe from tears that came uninvited, because I wasn't just skiing. I was fighting every invisible battle I'd ever faced. The fear of failing, the fear of falling, the fear of stopping before I'd even started, all of it washed away in the roar of the wind. I didn't care if I made it to the end of the lake. All I cared about was that I didn't give up halfway. Pain became rhythm, struggle became motion, and failure turned into flight. The boat slowed down eventually, and when I let go of the rope, I didn't fall, I simply let the water catch me. The splash was cold, sharp, and real, and as I floated on my back, staring at the open sky, I smiled through the ache in my leg because I knew, this wasn't about water skiing, this was about life. How often do we stand on the edge of something hard, something risky, and step back just because it hurts? How often do we let the fracture inside us decide the limits of our courage? That day, with a broken leg, I learned that healing doesn't always mean resting. Sometimes it means rising anyway. The body might need rest, but the mind heals through defiance, through motion, through daring to be foolish enough to believe you still can. People talk about resilience like it's a word in a motivational book, but I felt it that day, raw, real, trembling between pain and pride. I remembered every time I had failed, every time I had been told I wasn't ready, and I realized something: readiness is a myth. You don't wait to be ready. You start while you're broken and figure out the rest while moving. I think we all have our version of that lake, that rope, that pain. Maybe yours isn't a broken leg or water skiing. Maybe it's a broken dream, a failed plan, a voice that says you're not enough. But the truth is, courage doesn't wait for perfection. It grows in the cracks of our weakness. When I walked, or rather, limped, back to shore, everyone looked at me differently. They didn't see the man who was foolish enough to try. They saw the man who was brave enough not to quit. And maybe that's what matters most. Not the applause, not the result, but the quiet knowledge that you showed up when it would have been easier to walk away. The doctor later shook his head. Said I could have made it worse, that it was reckless, but I just nodded and smiled because he was right. It was reckless, but so is every act of faith. That day taught me something books never could. The line between bravery and stupidity is drawn only by the outcome, and sometimes you have to cross it just to know which side you belong to. Pain is temporary, but regret lasts a lifetime. And I'd rather limp with pride than walk with regret. Even now, when life throws storms at me, I remember that day on the lake. The sun, the water, the roar of the boat, the pulse of pain in my leg. And the calm voice inside whispering, keep going. Because that's what life is, a series of moments where you choose whether to stop or to go on. And each choice defines who you are more than any success ever will. I didn't ski that day to prove I was strong. I skied to remind myself I wasn't weak. And maybe that's what courage truly is. Not the absence of fear or pain, but the quiet decision to act despite both. I've met people who think bravery is loud, visible, heroic, but it isn't. Sometimes, it's just holding on to the rope when every part of you wants to let go. It's waking up with a broken leg, a broken heart, or a broken dream and saying, not yet, I'm not done. The lake that day was my battlefield, the rope my test, and the pain my teacher. It taught me that life doesn't stop for your injuries. It moves, fast and unforgiving. And if you don't grab on, it leaves you behind. Every wave that hit me was like a question, are you sure? And every time I stayed upright, my answer was yes. That's the kind of yes that builds people, that forges character. The world doesn't celebrate pain, but it does respect persistence, and that's all I wanted, not pity. But proof that limits are mostly stories we tell ourselves. Looking back now, I realize that day wasn't about bravery or stupidity, it was about freedom. Freedom from doubt, fear, and the imaginary walls I'd built around what I thought I could handle. The leg healed eventually, as all wounds do, but the lesson, that stayed. It reminds me every time I face something hard. If you can ski with a broken leg, you can face anything. Because courage isn't found in comfort, it's born in moments when you should have stopped but didn't. So yes, I went water skiing with a broken leg, not because I wanted to prove I was invincible, but because I wanted to remember I was alive. And when I think of that day, of that reckless decision, of that pain turned into power, I realize, sometimes the craziest things we do become the stories that save us later, reminding us that we were stronger than we ever thought we could be.